Brian, we've talked about Delaware Statutory Trust before, but there is actually a process that you really have to go through, isn't there?
Absolutely. If you get it wrong even a little bit, you blow it up. So just to reiterate, Delaware Statutory Trust is where someone can sell their appreciated real estate and do a Section 1031 exchange. But you're exchanging, instead of finding property where you're going to be the landlord, you're investing into passive real estate under a DST. DST is kind of like a small private REIT, real estate investment trust, but it happens to qualify for Section 1031 exchange. Now, you have to get, like you said, the process is right. The first thing you do is you've decided to sell your property. So the first thing you have to do is hire a real estate agent to list the property for sale. When you sign a purchase and sale agreement, it has to have Section 1031 wording in the agreement somewhere. All boilerplate agreements have that, but make sure it's there. Then prior to closing, you have to do two things. One is you have to hire a financial advisor who understands and can put you into a Delaware Statutory Trust. There aren't very many of them. And the other thing, the critical thing, is you have to hire a qualified intermediary. That's maybe a title company or a law firm that will hold the money and do the transaction. If you do not hire them before you close the property, then the deal is blown.
So this is not a DIY job. It's not something that I've decided to just sell my real estate. I think I'll do a Delaware Statutory Trust and I can do it on my own. Once again, if it's not done in the proper order, you can void the deal completely. Let's talk about who this strategy is best suited for.
Right. If you've determined that you're ready for passive real estate and you want to sell the real estate that you have and you want to do the 1031 exchange for various reasons, and we have other videos on that to go into further depth. But you've decided to do that. As I mentioned, you have to sell your properties and have a purchase and sale agreement. Now, I ask that people that are working with us for the Delaware Statutory Trust, as soon as they know when the deal is going to close, let the financial advisor know. Again, there's only a few financial advisors. I believe that we do more as a fiduciary advisor, more DSTs than anybody in the entire country. And so I ask that people that we're working with let us know as soon as they know when the closing date is going to be. And the reason for that is that allows us some time to start looking at what the DSTs that are going to be available look like. And these are pretty popular sometimes. They go quick, so sometimes we can put in reservations and make sure we have the best ones when it closes. So let us know quickly, and we can provide a qualified intermediary. Nobody has one on their, I would say Rolex, but anymore in their contacts in their phone. Speed dial, my QI. Nobody has that, so we can provide that if you don't already have one. And so we get those things in place. And then when your property sells, the proceeds from the property go directly to the qualified intermediary. And by then, we've probably already been communicating on what we want to reinvest in, and maybe have already done the paperwork on that. So then our office would contact the qualified intermediary, let them know which properties we want to buy. They would transact that. We have 45 days to do this. And so at any time during that 45 days, there are DSTs available. And so that makes it a lot easier as opposed to trying to find your own property that may be hard to find on your own. There's always DSTs available for somebody to do a 1031 exchange.
So Brian, what would be the detriments to this DST process?
Yeah, DSTs aren't for everybody. I mean, if you're a younger real estate investor, one of the main reasons to do a DST is to eventually get the step up in basis so that your heirs never pay any income tax on the gains. But if you're 40 years old, well, we might be talking 50 years of DSTs. Maybe that's not what you want. You're probably at a point in time where you don't want to retire from being a landlord. You're actually really making big money in real estate. So keep doing that. So that would be a reason not to do a DST. In fact, that's probably the main reason, is that you think that you feel like you could put the effort forward in active real estate and make a lot more money, and you still care about that. You know, you're not 85 years old where it really doesn't matter, or 65 and you want to retire from being a landlord. It's still kind of your thing. So those are reasons not to. Another reason not to do a 1031 exchange is that you believe for your own personal that your future income tax rates are going to be higher than they are today. So some people might want to just sell it and take the gain on selling their real estate, so they have access to the money to reinvest in the way they want to reinvest.
So Brian, what are the upsides to doing a DST?
Yeah, a DST is really simple. That really solves a lot of problems for somebody selling real estate and not wanting to pay the tax. Again, we talked about how hard it is to find replacement real estate in this market because there's so many people looking for good deals. There aren't a lot of them out there. Plus, you still have to be the landlord if you want active real estate. So DSTs are always available. They're, again, real simple. We do all the paperwork. The qualified intermediary does the actual exchange. All you really have to do is select from it's kind of like going to Costco and just picking out, oh, I'd like that self-storage, I'd like that apartment building, give me those net lease properties, oh, it's Amazon warehouse. Okay, those are my 4 investments. And that's pretty much it. You pick them out, and a month after you invest, you start getting monthly rent checks. And so it's pretty simple thing. And if those properties go up in value, you have your ownership share, and you have an increase in the underlying value too.
Brian, can you give me an example of someone that you have helped get into a Delaware Statutory Trust?
Yeah, I've got lots of examples about that. And what I'm finding is that I'm having more and more of these discussions, mainly because people are getting older. Most of the people that own rental real estate, as I mentioned before, are baby boomers, and the average baby boomer is in his late 60s, and most people kind of equate your 60s with a good time to retire, to have more time with the things you want to do. And so I'd say that that's a primary driver behind DSTs. I could give 100 stories about how it's helped different people, but mainly in this case, I just want to make sure the processes are done. I can give you an example when it didn't work out. I remember this guy, he'd gone to 3 of my seminars, read all our information, heard about the qualified intermediary probably 50 times. He sells his property, calls me up, he says, I'm ready for a DST. I said, great, where's the money? He said, well, I've got it in my account. Oh, I remember that thing about the qualified intermediary? And he said, oh yeah, I remember you mentioned that all the time. What was that again? I said, you had to have that in place. The moment you touch that money, it hits your account, the 1031 exchange is dead. And there's a pause. Oh, I forgot about that, because he had forgotten to call me and before he closed. And he had a $6 million sale, $1.5 million of tax gone. And now he had, $4.5 million left after tax, and he had to figure out what to do with that. So it was really sad that if he'd listened to this one, video that we're doing right now, would have saved him $1.5 million in tax and the earnings on that for the rest of his life. So that's one of the reasons we're doing these videos. But there's an example of somebody that didn't follow the processes exactly as they needed to be followed.
Well, the DST sounds like a pretty interesting concept, Brian. Thanks for telling us more about that.
Sure.